And we're going to get into a little bit of research where it's like, hey, people with poor posture are dying sooner. They are more dependent in their golden years. They aren't independent. People with poor posture, and they're lacking self-esteem and motivation and like alertness.
We put so much emphasis on like eating organic food and drinking our water and doing detoxes, and then you look and you're like, well, if your posture's jacked up, just by breathing, you're going to accumulate toxins faster than you could ever.
The results were the upright participants had higher self-esteem, more arousal, better mood, lower levels of fear, some pretty big outcomes. And again, which is coming first? Is it that self-esteem plummeted?
All right, welcome everybody to the Health Accelerator Challenges. This is your host, Cade Archibald, and I am really excited to dive into today's topic. We got an amazing guest that I'll introduce you to. Before we dive in there, just want to hear how your last week's been, how any challenges you're running into. If you're joining us live, type it into the chat box for me. Even if you're listening to this recording, write me an email. Send me a note at Cade, C-A-D-E, at AccuEastWest.com. I'm curious to hear how your challenges are going, or maybe you're implementing the 6 essentials, anything like that. Let's hear from you. But I'll introduce our guest today. I'm really excited to bring her on the show. We have with us today is Dr. Ashley Wright. She's a doctor of physical therapy. She's been practicing over 14 years, really robust experience in sports rehab. She's had her own practice in the Gilbert area. For some reason, I keep wanting to say Glendale. She does dry needling. She's even does a lot of coaching, life coaching. Just phenomenal human being that we love working with and being associated with. Mom of 5, so she's not busy at all. She spent all day putting this presentation together, I'm sure, since she has no time in her day with your physical therapy practice as well as mom of 5. So really impressive human being. Ashley Wright, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Cade. I love being here with EastWest Health. It's been such an amazing group to work with and collaborate with. And so I'm excited to be here today. Like Cade said, I've been practicing in outpatient orthopedic sports medicine for 14 years. Prior to PT school, I ran track and field up at Flagstaff, Arizona, NAU, the 800 meters, the 2-lap half-mile race, the worst one ever. I have a hard time even watching it on hills. I know what they're going through, but I love anything movement sports related. So over 14 years, I've treated 80-year-olds playing pickleball or 14-year-olds playing football, and I love all of it. Badminton, dance, tennis, whatever is getting people moving and active and doing what they love. And so today I just want to talk about movement, but specifically your posture and how it relates to your longevity, your lifespan, and your health span. And so everybody like age 12 to 90 will ask me about their posture, and like something's off. I can feel that I'm kind of like sideways or too slouched, or my back hurts so bad. And then if we have time, we go through it, we make corrections, but a lot of times people just laugh it off like, oh, well, too busy, and so I kind of want to get you to start to shift that paradigm in your head, and kind of want to know if you want to throw into the chat box any of your concerns around your posture. And I know people often have concerns about their posture. They just don't know where to go or how to get help or kind of what it means for the future. So go ahead and start throwing any of that in the chat box, and we'll get to more of it. So just I want you to know before we dive into like getting your posture improved and how important it is just also know that I'm a mom of 5 coming to you. I'm busy as well. And I understand like the barriers to getting in the work. And so don't let that hold you back. It is super important. And so let's shift the paradigm a little bit about kind of laughing off maybe posture as being like, oh, it's bad and it just will stay that way. Here's the 5 kiddos that are currently kicking my rear end in their teenager phase, and we're working on their posture too. And I know you all are busy and you have so much going on and big families and lots of work. So let's dive into posture a little bit, and I'll go ahead and escape this full screen so that I can see any of the chat box. But let's talk about your posture and your health span, and then your posture and your lifespan, and how it even affects your self-confidence. There's a lot of research to talk about how posture does affect your self-confidence, and then what can you do for your posture. I'll give you some tips, some practical things to kind of get into. Let's talk a little bit about this idea of like posture and how we hold ourselves and how it can affect our lifespan.
Yeah.
Is it sharing?
We're not seeing your screen.
Okay, so let me get it going.
There we go.
And I don't have anything in the chat box yet either, so all good. That gave me a second to check. Okay, are we good now?
Awesome. Now we can see. Yeah.
Thank you, Cade. And then if you could help me out and stop me with the chat box, that would be awesome. Because in the full screen mode, then people can see everything a little bit better, but I can't see the chat box, I realize. So in speaking of like our posture affecting how long we live and our health span, I want to rewind a little bit that there is this gap we're finding through the research, about a 9-year gap from how long we're living to how like we're reporting feeling good. And it's about 9 years. And so the last 9 years we're kind of spending in misery. I would argue it's a little bit more than that from what I've seen. People seeking out orthopedic care, I'd say it's more like 15 to 20 years, unfortunately. But so this article just picked apart like how long we're living, and then when we're reporting a great decline. And, the argument is, do we really want to increase lifespan until we've kind of rewound and figured out our health span and how good we're feeling? And so I think I want to get your mind on posture today and how improving your posture is one way to close that gap, that 9-year gap that we're seeing. And then health span, in the scientific world, it's just defined as the span of time spent without disease. And so I would argue that health span is much more than that. We don't want to just be free of disease. We want to have the joy of optimal mind and body function. Like we want to be firing on all cylinders. We want to have a reason to live long. I think our posture and our ability to move through space and like have a physical goal and something to look forward to greatly affects things. And so these are just some categories I've come up with that contribute to our health span: our mental and emotional clarity, joyful relationships, healthy organs. This is why you guys are here with EastWest Health, getting everything checked out. And it's so amazing that you're doing that, getting all the blood work done and taking a look at all the organs, making sure they're all working properly. Feeling grounded in nature when we're so bombarded with technology, and technology is definitely affecting our posture. We're going to talk about text neck here in a little bit. That's a real thing to watch out for, to get evaluated for it. And I'll show you a couple exercises that are practical to help with that. And then proper nutrition is huge. You can't train your way out of a bad diet. We've all heard that, and that's true. Restorative sleep, and sleeping in a good posture will affect like our daytime posture as well. And then just having strength, flexibility, and energy. So health span is like a goal that we kind of want to just be evolving and improving. Like Regan and Kay talk about the next 10 years being the best 10 years, and kind of get out of your mind like some ground rules I have for my patients, that you're not allowed to call yourself old ever. I don't care what age you are. And then when it comes to posture, just knowing that that hunched over, the rounded shoulders forward head posture that we know, we can all recognize, it's completely optional, reversible. It doesn't have to be that way. So let's get into the chat box. Kate, do we have any questions or comments?
I'm adding in some comments. I love it's illegal to call yourself old. I like that. That's a good policy to have.
Yep.
Yeah, you're never old. And Regan joined us. Regan, thanks for joining us.
This is exciting because I mean, Ashley, you brought this up, but that marginal decade, that last decade of life where people go off a cliff, it's like your posture changes and your mindset changes. And it's like, what comes first? I don't know, chicken and egg conversation, but this is like gold, what you're sharing. So thank you for being on.
Awesome. Yes. And we're going to get into a little bit of research where it's like, hey, people with poor posture are dying sooner. They are more dependent in their golden years. They aren't independent, people with poor posture, and they're lacking self-esteem and motivation and like alertness. And so, yeah, what comes first? Is it that the body systems are kind of shutting down, then the posture's crouching, then we're noticing and measuring? I think that it can go both ways as we can become aware of our posture. There's a few studies that show like just taking on a proper posture will reduce cortisol levels and increase testosterone. It's really interesting. Yeah. So one thing we learned in school was that always stuck with me, 14 years ago, is posture is your battle against gravity.
Yeah.
And so, Regan Joe says the universe wants to recycle us. I like transition us. I feel like a little nicer. And the law of gravity plays a role in that. So we have this center of gravity. I'll show one slide over where it's like there's this line of access that should fall basically in line with the ear, the lateral shoulder, through the pelvis, down through the medial or lateral ankle on that knobby bone. And so once we start to tip forward in our acts of daily living where we're typing, cooking, whatever we're doing, then the law of gravity gets to play its role in, the universe wanting to transition us. So it's like our friendly battle against gravity. So as we're aging and we're not allowed to call ourselves old ever, and we always have these physical goals we're trying to reach, thinking about being upright and strong versus slouched and weak. And so I'd like you guys to just take a minute to think about what motivates you to improve your posture. Is it maybe this visual here of you can notice it in other people? And then if you we'll talk about here in a minute, getting like a virtual consult with me where we can scan some photos and get the computer to start to help us analyze things.
That's cool. And I think you mentioned at the beginning, posture is really correlated with confidence. Yes. And that's the thing I think about when I think of posture is like, and I do this with my son a lot, is like, he'll be kind of like, sitting kind of like curled up. And I'm like, hey man, like open those shoulders up. You're like, you're a boss. Come on, like have some confidence there. Cause it's just like the energy that gets put off by what someone's posture looks like, I think is real. Like you can feel it and sense it. And so I love this topic.
Yeah. So do we have any comments, Cade? No, not yet. Okay. So it's really, even like when they teach women in self-defense courses, they teach us to like get your shoulders upright, move with a purpose, know exactly where you're going. It's really interesting. This health psychology journal did a really nice study on slumped and upright postures affecting stress. And so the results were the upright participants had higher self-esteem, more arousal, better mood, lower levels of fear, some pretty big outcomes. And again, which is coming first? Is it that self-esteem plummeted, then the posture, or which? But with the human body, you can work in reverse. And as you become aware, you can start to improve posture. And I think these things will really improve. Going back to some of the anatomy and why besides self-esteem, why it matters. We've got this whole central nervous system that's the controller. And it's made up of nerves, and nerves, they like their space and they like their oxygen. So if you've ever had nerve symptoms, you've had shooting pain, burning, tingling, numbness, or like discoordinated, like I'm dropping things and I don't know why. Typically that's your nervous system being angry because somewhere along the track, the nerve is getting closed down on its space. It's not getting enough oxygen. And so this alignment, this proper alignment allows flowing of oxygen and synovial fluid to the nerves as they exit the vertebrae, they branch out through the extremities. Really important for that. And the brain's the controller. It's like your electrical box on the side of your house. It controls everything. It gets the messages to the organs, to the muscles, to the circulatory system. So pretty important to protect that system with your good posture. We've got a text neck skeleton here. Does anybody worry about text neck? It's a real thing. As we're looking down at these devices, if you all can kind of feel the back of your neck, this most bony prominent bone is your C7, and you start to hinge on it when you look down. And so in a minute here, I'm going to show a little reversal exercise for that. And we don't want to get into that forward head posture prolonged. We want to get that analyzed and make sure where we're at. Cade's doing a good extension for me there. And it is a myth. Like a lot of patients ask me, is it bad to tip my neck back? And so I like debunking that myth. It's not bad at all. If you have pain with it, talk to us. And in general, with any mobility work or any exercise that we give you, I guide patients to stay at a 5 out of 10 pain or less. And if you're starting to bump into a 6 out of 10 pain, make sure you're talking to us and getting some feedback, and don't like shove past those kind of pain levels. And then, our oculomotor system is tied into all this. The uppermost vertebrae of the neck here have a lot of the nerve roots that control the eyeball muscles. And so when I have people with a really poor posture, a lot of neck and upper back pain, I actually will do visual tracking exercises, and it's amazing. You'll see as the eyeballs are trying to track off to the side and come back, we'll kind of get a nystagmus and bouncing. And so it can actually start to affect your vision. Kate and Regan, do you guys have any experience with that, or do we have any comments or questions about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, my Japanese teacher, she used to say that sick breathing comes from the chest. And most people, when their head's forward, you can't take a deep breath, like your diaphragm can't contract. And so you're getting all this carbon dioxide and all this metabolic waste built up in your system. And you see people, like, we put so much emphasis on like eating organic food and drinking our water and doing detoxes. And then you look and you're like, well, if your posture's jacked up, just by breathing, you're going to accumulate toxins faster than you could ever by, eating some food that, may have a little bit of glyphosate or some chemicals sprayed on it. It's kind of funny how people don't correlate those things.
Yeah, thank you. That reminds me, I forgot to kind of say at the beginning that our posture is truly reflective of almost all of our organ systems working properly. If we can get into that perfect alignment, it takes work to do. It takes a lot of visual feedback, a lot of training and effort, not insurmountable. You can calendar out, 15, 20 minutes, 3-4 days a week on some of these exercises. And it can really change. And it is very reflective of how the whole body is doing. And this is just some of the research showing, pretty big trials of like 804 participants, over 2,000, showing that those with poor posture didn't live as long. They became dependent in their elderly years. And that's all the things we're wanting to avoid. So what can we do about it? We're working kind of to put together some virtual consults where the computer can help analyze. This is my 15-year-old. He grew 6 inches in the last, 4 months. He's like getting huge, and his muscles are trying to catch up to his skeleton. You can see some of the sway in the spine. He also wasn't like a super positive participant, believe it or not, at age 15. There was a little attitude going into this. So your attitude affecting your posture, right? But this system can kind of analyze the pelvis tilt, and give some angles, give us a baseline. It's got a way to kind of track. We could look at your overhead squat, which is kind of more of your movement pattern, which is super important. Biomechanics play a huge role in this. So that's something we're hoping to bring to you all soon. And so one thing to consider, going back to our images here, is that it's not just about your shoulders being upright and the neck being in a good place. That's super important. But the pelvis is something I can help teach you guys over time, that it can get rounded under, it can get rounded forward. You see what's normal is about this 35, 45 degrees off of parallel from the ground, but you'll notice people getting to like a sway back where they're kind of, the core is completely disengaged. Or this last figure here is kind of gearing up toward what I joke about with my patients of old man butt. And it's the only way that I get my male patients to work their, nobody wants old man butt. Everybody knows what it is, always resonates. And then I can get people to like work that pelvic floor and kind of maybe go with their wife to Pilates or yoga, something like that to get moving. So any comments,
don't
questions?
want to look like a frog standing up.
You don't want to look like a frog standing up. None of us want that. Any comments or questions?
No, that's a great visual is the old man. Definitely awesome. Want to work on that booty.
So good.
So important. I mean, booties and lifespan, we got to do some studies on that. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just going to play my favorite posture exercise to give you all a demo, and then I'll show you one in person, and then we'll see if anybody else has questions. Let me know if it's one of my number one exercises for keeping our neck strong and correcting posture. So I give it to anybody with bicep tendonitis, rotator cuff tendonitis, upper neck pain, lower neck pain, middle back dysfunction where we're getting rounded and we're getting weak. So the number one reason for neck pain is muscle atrophy, meaning the muscles in the deep extensors that lie underneath these ones that you can kind of feel. When you MRI people with neck pain and you compare to people without, there's fatty infiltration in the deepest layer of neck muscles, meaning they're weak, they're asleep, they're not doing their job to hold up the vertebrae and support everything. So this exercise will retrain that. And it's good just for anybody for preventative care. And so you'll need a ball, and then we'll start out no weight, and you can progress to a very light weight. So you'll need to be able to put your feet against the wall as well. And then the ball needs to go underneath your hips. And so you'll be balanced just the tip of the toes against the wall. What that's going to do is going to force the glutes and the hamstrings to engage and to support the paraspinal muscles. We call them the extensor paraspinal muscles. Once we're there, the neck is going to be in neutral, not looking up, not looking down. You're going to end up with a straight line with your body. What that'll do, it'll engage those deep extensors that we know get weak on most people. So from there, we call it the I, T, and Y exercise. So we'll start with thumbs up. You're going to head into the Y, and thumbs go up to the ceiling, squeeze the shoulder blades, keep the neck in neutral. Then we're going to go to the T, palms face the floor, give a good squeeze, a good hold, come back slowly, and then into the I. Palms down, squeeze the shoulder blades, keep your traps from migrating up, okay? And then repeat. You can lift at a decent speed, come down nice and slow. Give it a pause, let the shoulder blades engage toward each other. Make sure that the upper traps aren't shrugging. So that's just when I can kind of clean up and send out to everybody to kind of get you moving on something. That one will, like when you get off the ball, you feel awake. You're like, holy crap, my whole backside is engaged. It feels really good. I give it to a lot of rotator cuff tendonitis, because that's one thing we haven't covered, is that rounded shoulders posture clamps down that bicep tendon and it makes the rotator cuff really disengaged. We've got a question: what exercises would you suggest for mid-kyphosis in the upper back? That one that I just played is kind of one of my number ones, because I can show you more in detail if we can kind of I can get you a free consult, but you can engage the core with it too. So it's truly like this full body way to reset your posture. It's really great for that mid-kyphosis. Thanks, Allison. So we have time for one more, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's great. By the way, I love that that exercise because you can do it on a bench too. You know,
Yes.
do it on an angled
Thank you
bench.
for pointing out. So the physio ball is pretty advanced. We want to make sure there's no pain with it, especially in the low back. Typically, if there's pain, the transverse abdominis is not being properly engaged, and so that's something that can help train on. And then that once we learn that engagement, it typically helps a ton. It can be done, like you said, Regan, over a bench. Roman chair. Actually, the Roman chair is really quite advanced too because there's no support. So it's really working a lot of things. Awesome. So just going back to that C7, I just want to review one we can do together. Finding that knobby bone, just feel it on yourself and just knowing that that's typically sticking too far backward and we need to kind of get it reversed back in. So you can kind of get the hands in this butterfly position, feel that bone. And then what I want you to do from there is expand into it and feel it kind of retract as you squeeze those shoulder blades back. And then with the neck, kind of support the neck with the pinkies and go ahead and tip backward and kind of hold. Now, engaging that oculomotor system, go ahead and take those eyeballs up to the ceiling. Breathe, don't hold your breath, and come back in. And go ahead and let it all forward. Let's repeat again. Going ahead and doing a big, deep inhalation. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Go ahead and squeeze and look up a little bit. Feel that work your eyes. And then come back in. Good. If you want to get a little bit fancy with it, what I like to do too is once we're here and we're up, we can tip to the side and hold. And then take your left eyeball up to the left corner. Come back to center. Tip to the right. Take the right eyeball up into the corner. Come back to center and back in. So what's a little hard is when I'm talking is to kind of also show you the breathing, but engage like on the upward, we're inhaling, and then on the inward, we're exhaling. So a really great way. You see a lot of things on the market to like lay on and kind of push that C7 up. I like those. I like those at night when you're watching your show. Get on the ground and do a little yoga, please, every night, like 10, 15 minutes, stretch out a little bit. That's like a passive way to go ahead and stretch back that kind of knobby bone that gets out of whack on most of us. But the active breaks throughout the workday or whatever you're doing throughout the day that would bring you looking down are super important. Both are very important.
What do you think on it? Have you seen those acupressure mats that have the roll on them? It feels really good on my neck. I always
I love those. And so think of that as your passive way of kind of realigning. And that's what I was saying, like do that at night, throw it on the ground while you're watching your show or get in some deep breathing and know that that's a passive way to stretch back into place. But then also wanting to spend some time on those active movements like the ball exercise and the one I just showed you, that's more of an active thing to be doing throughout the day to retrain the muscles. Yeah. Love that, Cade. Thank you.
Anything specific for like your tech neck? I guess that exercise is probably perfect for tech neck. Mm-hmm. Those things on the knee pain side.
And I also tell people too, like no time is wasted in the gym. When you're in the gym doing lat pulls, you're doing any sort of extension exercise, your rows, your face pulls, your low rows, that's all contributing to that healthy posture. What I was giving was just more of something to do like during the work day. The ball exercise is something to do at the gym, but just know that like tell yourself that you're doing awesome and you're doing a good thing for your posture. Anytime you're doing, I don't care if it's Pilates, yoga, the gym, strength and conditioning, all of it's going to contribute to better posture because it's a whole system of core engagement. It's not just about like, we think of the rhomboids in the middle trap, super important, but it's a whole system that matters.
I guess one thing that I remember growing up, it was always like you have to have the same or more pull as you do push, like as far as exercises go? Because if all you do is go in and just
Yes.
bench press and do some bicep curls.
Yes. So my dad played college football and he benched like 525 in college and he still, I did not get that strength, by the way. And so I tell him 2-to-1. I said, you have to do 2 pulls for every push because he still loves his push exercises. And he, as he's aging, it's taking its toll. So I love that, Kate. Thanks for what we're talking about. Push exercises are push-ups, bench press, burpees. What else, Kate?
Shoulder press.
Overhead press,
Press.
Arnold press. Those
Yep.
are all great and important. Chest strength really matters. We want to kind of offset with that, with the pulls, which are going to work the backside, which is going to be your lat pulls, your renegade rows, all kind of the ball exercise I showed you, the Y's, T's, and I's, all of that. So,
Yeah. I remember, I can't remember like when your hips are, when you're flexing your hips, kind of doing pelvic tilt, but you're on the machine. Why can't I think of it? Like CrossFit, they do them all the time where
hip thrusters, where you're using the bench to support your back and then lifting the hips up, or are you thinking?
Yeah, essentially. I always remember is there an issue if you overextend, you can create some compression there. But
So I train people initially to just go to neutral. And that's where it gets into this individuality and getting with your physical therapist and getting with your EastWest Health coach and knowing how typically your people's spine either loves extension or flexion. So if you have an extension bias and you love it and your spine is happy in extension, go ahead, we can go above neutral and it's actually going to help some symptoms. If you have a flexion bias and your spine likes to live in flexion and you're working on extension, then we're just going to go to neutral. So that was a little bit of a complicated answer, but safest thing is just going to neutral at first and then working with a specialist to know, go ahead and go past. Most of my fit athletes, I'm like, go ahead and go into some actual extension. It's going to be a good thing.
That's some great insight because I know there's always been a little bit of question and controversy on that. So that's great insight. Awesome. Ashley, this has been so fun and I really appreciate you joining us. What's if someone wants to connect with you or reach out for a consultation, what's the best way for them to reach out?
I think what the best way is I'll put together my info in an email for you all to send out, and then that way I can start helping with some free consults for everybody and getting you an idea of your posture and your mechanics and what we can do. And just want to thank you guys. EastWest Health is amazing. I'm currently a patient. It's incredible. Love everything you guys are doing, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So fun. And did you tell them our plan is we want you guys to do longevity work with Ashley, and then we're building actually a brand new protocol that's never been built. Did you share any of this with them, Ashley?
No, I didn't. I figured it was your news to share. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, here's where I'm excited is because there's a few people who you meet along the way and you're like, man, they have such a unique gift. And hopefully you guys got a lot out of what Ashley shared. And the thing that I noticed is she was at a retreat and she was there with Lena, and Lena's my inner matrix emotional coach. And Lena had a really good thing to say. She said, and I said, plug it in the chat box, but she texted me and it's like, posture, chicken or egg, because that's what I said. And she said, emotions live in the nervous system and our posture is the external manifestation of our core emotional pattern. And I was like, that's a pretty cool frame to think of things through. But, so we've got Lena and Ashley are there together. They're both physical therapists. And I was like, man, talk about a great collaboration working with them. So Ashley's on today and I'm like, we need to create a longevity, our longevity fitness needs to have posture and real physical therapy, because when you were in the gym and just coaching people, I was like, she's got a real gift. So I really appreciate that. And our goal is we want to set up a location in Phoenix where Ashley is working on you guys who live in that area in Arizona. So Get ready, it's coming. And then Lena's going to be joining us in the future too, and she's going to take you guys through some of the inner matrix stuff. So, because and by the way, Ashley and Lena became fast friends, which
Lena, I'm gonna call you. So good to hear from you.
So anyway, it's a really exciting thing. So this is just kind of one of hopefully many different workshops that Ashley will take you guys through. So take her up on the free assessment. There's no strings attached. We just want to see how you guys do with her assessment. Give us feedback. You'll love working with her, as you can tell. She's amazing. And, after having 5 kids, I think she could probably tolerate most of you. So be nice to her. So, awesome. Yeah. Well, what's the challenge for the week? What do you want people to work on?
Hey, well, I think that ball exercise, let's get that blasted out. You're going to love it. My patients are always, they come off, they're like, oh my gosh, my body feels so good. It's actually a great one to just like kind of instantly reduce some pain, get the blood flowing. You could throw it in at the beginning or the end of your workout. I like at the beginning because it gets your mind on all those muscles. So if that's possible, I'd love that to be the challenge, or to set a goal for your posture at age 100. Last time you said something about how long do you want to live, and I think I typed in 101, but I want to die while running a marathon. So it's like, right. Let's get your mind around movement, and never say you're old ever, please. That's the other challenge. You'll be shocked when you take that away, how many times you go to say it.
Yep. Yeah, this is great. Well, thanks so much, Ashley. Thanks everyone for being part of the community, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye.